Hello, my friends, and welcome to our video lecture on topic A3.1 Diversity of Organisms. Our guiding questions: what is a species, and what patterns are seen in the diversity of genomes within and between species? Our objectives: we are going to describe variation as a defining feature of life on Earth. We're going to review the concept of a species and talk about the diversity of chromosome number amongst different species. We're going to look at the unity and diversity of genomes within a single species, and then take a look at genome sequencing. Variation is again considered to be a defining feature of life on Earth. Variation has allowed for natural selection to lead to the amazing biodiversity that we have on our planet. It also just makes our lives interesting. So many super cool creatures for us to appreciate and investigate. The definition of a species that we have been using is that a species is a group of organisms capable of interbreeding to produce fertile offspring. Historically, we have classified our species based on morphology. Morphology is looking at the shape, at the form of different organisms, and then putting them into groups based on common morphology. Tigers have common morphologies. Tigers look like other tigers. They don't look like lions, and so we classify tigers and lions into different species. In order to increase the ease of international collaboration, communication amongst different scientists, when we talk about different species, we try to use their scientific names. The scientific name of an organism is based on this concept of binomial nomenclature, which is using two names to name things. The two names that we're going to use are the genus and species name. Notice that our genus is going to be capitalized, capital P in Panthera. Both the lion and the tiger share a common genus. They are pretty closely related. They are both in the genus Panthera, capital P Panthera. The species name will not be capitalized. Notice lowercase t, lowercase l for Tigris and Leo. The whole entire scientific name, genus and species, should be italicized when we type it in a document. If you state Panthera Leo once in a document, we talk about it later, you can abbreviate to just capital P period for that Panthera Leo. So this is also an acceptable way to write the scientific name of a lion. So back to our species definition: organisms capable of interbreeding to produce fertile offspring. Here's an interesting thing about ligers and tigons, those hybrids of tigers and lions. Sometimes females can be fertile. What? They can produce fertile offspring? Does that mean that we need to reclassify tigers and lions into the same species? No. But we do need to consider that in science, frequently, and in this case specifically, there are exceptions to our rules. Our rules are very much human-made. We humans decided to classify species as organisms capable of interbreeding to produce fertile offspring, but there are limitations to that definition. Some organisms, like bacteria, they don't even really interbreed. Sometimes they might share those little pieces of plasmid DNA, but they don't really have eggs and sperm and produce offspring. So do we not classify any bacteria as being species because they don't interbreed? That also doesn't make sense. So again, know that our definitions are sometimes a little bit fuzzy. They work well most of the time, but there are always going to be exceptions. Another limitation that comes with our definition of a species being organisms capable of interbreeding to produce fertile offspring is when speciation is occurring. So we know that most speciation occurs gradually, this idea of gradualism, where we have this slow accumulation of modifications that eventually leads to species formed from that parent species. But what if during these early stages of speciation, these groups migrate back together and they start to breed again, and their offspring can be fertile? At what point do we say, now they are different species? But maybe they're not quite yet. Again, lots of limitations to our definition of a species. Know that it can be very difficult, especially during speciation events, to determine the exact spot when our groups of organisms are now new species and not just different populations of the same species. Once a species has been established, an interesting commonality amongst the organisms in that same species is that they share a chromosome number. For us humans, our chromosome number, our diploid number, is 46. Our somatic cells, those cells that are not sex cells, not eggs and sperm, have 46 chromosomes. Are there exceptions? Absolutely. We learned in our genetics unit that non-disjunction can occur. This can lead to an extra chromosome. For example, trisomy 21. Individuals born with Down syndrome have 47 chromosomes. They have that extra chromosome number 21. Now, if you have 46 chromosomes, does that mean you must be human? No. There are lots of other organisms that also have 46 chromosomes as their diploid number. These animals, and a water bug, which clearly is also an animal, and olives. Olives also have 46 chromosomes in their somatic cells. Another interesting thing about our chromosome number is that it doesn't necessarily correlate with a genome size. So we might have more or fewer chromosomes that could lead to more or fewer genes. So here we're looking at relative diploid numbers. Human diploid number 46, chimpanzees is 48. The number of genes that chimps have is a little bit more than what we humans have. But notice that the chromosome number, the diploid number of rice, is quite a bit smaller, but holy smokes, they have way more genes than do we humans. This is super interesting, right? So the number of chromosomes doesn't necessarily relate to the number of genes. And also, the number of genes doesn't necessarily correlate with the size of the genome. The genome is the collection of all the DNA in an organism. Notice, comparing again, us humans to rice and us humans. Here's the diploid number of chromosomes of rice, number of chromosomes of us humans. We have more chromosomes. But who has more genes? The rice has more genes. But who has more overall DNA? Here's the total genome of rice, and oh my gosh, look at our human genome. It's crazy big. We have a lot of genome compared to our number of genes. We have a lot of DNA that used to be called junk DNA. When I was in college, we didn't really know what this DNA did, this non-protein coding DNA. Now we know that it's lots of regulatory sequences, those silencers and promoters and enhancers that help to regulate gene transcription. Within a species, the organisms are going to have a pretty common genome. When we look at us humans, all humans on the whole entire planet, 99.9% of our genome, our DNA sequences, is exactly the same. Each individual is different by only that 0.1%. Each individual has about 4,000 to 5,000 SNPs. Remember that a SNP is a single nucleotide. Polymorphism. Single nucleotide. We're talking about just one A or one T, one C, one G in our DNA sequence. Poly is many and morph is shape or form. So we're talking about many different forms at a single spot in our DNA sequences. Here we can see this individual has an A in this particular spot. This individual has a different nucleotide in that same spot. And yet another nucleotide in this same spot. So in this single nucleotide position, we have many different forms, the A form, the G form, the T form. Just about 1 out of 650,000 of our A's, T's, C's, and G's, our nucleotides, are SNPs. That means that the other 649,999-ish nucleotides are exactly the same from one human to the next. So we share a lot of our genome in common. The massive amount of diversity that we see amongst us humans is due just to that 0.1%. That's amazing. How do we know that humans have 99.9% of their DNA in common? We have done some whole genome sequencing. We have literally figured out the orders of A's, T's, C's, and G's for the entire human genome. We used to do this with the Sanger sequencing method. This took a really long time, cost about $100 million to sequence just one human's genome. It took a long time, super expensive, and this was back in 2001, so a long time ago, but not that long ago, relatively speaking. Today, we can, for under $1,000, and in about 24 hours, we can sequence a whole entire human genome. This is amazing. There was a lot of competition. There were a lot of bragging rights to getting the human genome sequenced, and that competition led to some serious technological advances that increased the speed at which we could sequence genomes and also greatly decreased the cost. And why do we spend all that time and money trying to advance our technology in sequencing genomes? We have a couple different goals for this. For many organisms, we want to be able to understand evolution, looking at different species and trying to find common ancestry. We also want to be able to improve conservation efforts. This organization, the Earth Biogenome Project, is trying to sequence the entire genomes of as many species as possible so that should extinction occur, should the threat of extinction start to occur, we have the basis of the genome so that we can have some technological interventions. For us humans, we also want to understand our origins and migrations across the planet as our different tribes, our different ancestors moved about. Anyone who's ever done 23andMe or Ancestry.com, you know that you get these super cool maps of where your ancestors came from. The more we can sequence human genomes, the better we can understand human origins, migrations, and the development of civilizations. We also, by sequencing lots of human genome, we can better understand genetic disease and the factors that affect human health, and then we can, again, develop some interventions to improve our ability to cure those genetic diseases or at least treat them and keep humans healthier for longer. And on that note, my friends, we are already done with this video lecture. We talked about what species are. We also looked at the patterns that we see in the diversity of genomes within and between species. Our objectives, we talked about variation as being a defining feature of life on Earth. The reason that we have so much biodiversity is because there was variation, and natural selection led to speciation based on that variation. Species are groups of organisms that can interbreed to produce fertile offspring, mostly. We talked about the diversity of chromosome number among species. Our human chromosome number is 46. Different species have their own interesting numbers. We talked about unity and diversity of genomes within a species. As humans, we have 99.9% of our DNA in common. That 0.1% are those SNPs, those single nucleotide polymorphisms. Genome sequencing, trying to figure out the order of A's, T's, C's, and G's so that we can identify those SNPs and use our genetic variation to improve health and understanding. Well done today, my friends.